He is a top interrogation expert trusted by the US Department of Defense. He walked into the interrogation room with a relaxed demeanor, hands in his pockets. Seeing the soldiers using cold water to stimulate the terrorist, he said nothing, just smiled and picked up a stick nearby. The soldiers thought he was going to use violence on the criminal and tried to stop him, only to be taken down with a single blow. The people outside were stunned by this and rushed in to intervene. This man's name is Hart. The reason he acted against the soldiers was simply because they were treating the terrorist too gently. A few hours earlier, the military had summoned FBI Inspector Helen and Hart. They received a videotape sent by the terrorist himself. The man in the video, named Younger, declared that he had placed 3 homemade nuclear bombs with small yields in 3 different cities across the United States. The detonation time was set for 12 noon on Friday, which was 4 days later. Younger mentioned that the yield was small, but if all 3 bombs exploded, it was estimated that at least 10 million people would die. Younger was once a bomb expert in the Special Forces. After returning from the Iraq battlefield, he used illegal means to obtain 18 pounds of fissile material from Russia. Based on Younger's expertise and the authenticity of the tape, the US Department of Defense believes this is not a joke. The most noteworthy thing is that after sending the tape, Younger deliberately got himself captured by the military. The military interrogated Younger for hours without extracting any information, so they called the FBI and Hart. Unexpectedly, as soon as Hart arrived, he gave the soldiers a real dressing down. While Hart was being restrained, Helen entered the interrogation room. She wanted to take this opportunity to gain Younger's trust and wiped him with cold water. Helen skillfully mentioned his wife and children to appeal to his emotions. She naively thought that the familiar FBI tactics of persuasion and intimidation would work on Younger. Unexpectedly, he didn't pay any attention to her. Thus, the first round of contact ended. Helen didn't obtain any useful information. She immediately divided her team into 2 groups. One group went to find Younger's wife and children, while the other investigated the trucks he had rented. By tracking the routes of those trucks, they could narrow down the search area for the bomb. At this moment, her superior suddenly called Helen outside, saying that Hart wanted to meet her to conduct a new round of interrogation. In Helen's eyes, Hart was nothing but a jerk. But because of the orders from her superiors, even though she didn't want to cooperate with Hart, she couldn't refuse. And as soon as she stepped in, she was given a lesson. Hart ordered everyone not involved to leave the interrogation room, and then instructed a soldier to bring him the fire axe. Helen stood outside, completely unaware of what Hart intended to do, only seeing them place Younger on the chair. They used a special tool to secure his right hand onto the stone slab. Hart didn't bother to ask any questions, because with this type of terrorist, even a little leniency would mean treating the lives of 10 million people as a joke. So without further ado, Hart ruthlessly cut off one of Younger's fingers. This action horrified everyone, including both Helen and the soldiers. They all exclaimed that Hart was truly inhumane, but in Hart's eyes, everyone present was just a bunch of fools. This terrorist holds the lives of 10 million people in his hands, yet they demand humane treatment for him. Alright, I won't cut anymore. Is that what you want? Do you think I'll let you continue the interrogation? Then go ask him. He's the supreme commander here. The superiors believed that we should do everything possible to protect the interests of the country and the people. Hearing this, Hart couldn't be bothered to argue with these people anymore. He ordered his subordinates to put a plastic bag over Younger's head, not to suffocate him, but to let Younger know that he had countless ways to interact with him. In Hart's mind, it was very clear that this interrogation had been a life and death battle from the start. Younger daring to walk into the trap himself showed that he was already mentally prepared. Therefore, instead of questioning, Hart needed to make Younger feel fear. Hart drew his knife and in the blink of an eye, rendered Younger infertile. Witnessing that brutal scene, Helen nearly broke down. She began talking about human rights, the Geneva Convention, and the illegality of the interaction. She brought up everything she could think of. Seeing Hart's assistant indifferent, Helen immediately went to find a superior. You want to arrest Hart, we have to stop the interaction. The interrogation method he used was a violation. Have you spoken to the suspect yet? Not yet. Then why aren't you staying there? Jack, the suspect is being brutally interacted with. This violates the Constitution. Helen, if the bomb goes off, what Constitution is there to talk about? Jack didn't want to scold Helen at this moment. The most important thing now is to extract information from Younger. So he advised Helen to wait until everything is resolved before filing a lawsuit. Hart is not too late either. Helen only half listened to these words. She was completely unaware of the seriousness of the situation, or the true purpose of Younger's confession when she returned to the interrogation room. Seeing Hart switch to a new tactic using electroshock therapy, Helen was momentarily unsure of how to coordinate with him. Nor did she know what she should do. Unable to bear it any longer, Helen had to step outside to the restroom to calm down. A moment later, Hart also walked in. Helen initially didn't want to pay attention to him, but she still wanted to resolve this crisis somehow. So she turned back and criticized Hart for only interacting without asking Younger any questions. She believed that this extreme method would ultimately only lead Younger to falsely confess rather than reveal the truth. Hart did not argue with Helen. From the very beginning, he had seen through everything. He said that ordinary people have principles and fears, but terrorists do not. They exploit the general public's inability to accept cruelty to carry out brutal acts against everyone. The two of them are like logic and Tring Tom. The key to success or failure does not lie with the terrorist but with Helen. Then both of them returned to the interrogation room. Helen intended to use both hard and soft approaches. Taking advantage of Younger resting, she stepped in to negotiate. Helen said that if Younger didn't want further interaction, he should at least provide some information. Unexpectedly, Younger calmly replied, "It's alright." He believed that being tortured a little was worth it to save the lives of 10 million people. Hearing this, Helen played her trump card. She told Younger that his wife and children had been stopped while trying to leave the country. If the bomb exploded, his entire family might also be wiped out. Younger seemed a bit distressed upon hearing this, and then said that he would present his terms for exchange tomorrow. As soon as he finished speaking, Hart walked in. Clearly, Younger didn't regard Helen as anything significant. Helen was playing the emotional game while Younger was playing the human nature game. And so another day passed. Hart continued to increase the voltage, engrossed in his interactive game. At this moment, someone informed him that Hart's wife had come to deliver a meal. Upon hearing this, Hart left the room, handed Helen a remote control, and instructed her that if Younger fainted, she should press the button to wake him up. Without a second thought, Helen refused. Hearing this, Hart said it was up to her and then went outside to meet his wife. In fact, Hart is not a cold-blooded person. On the contrary, he knows very well who deserves his affection. Meanwhile, Younger suddenly fainted in the room. He fell asleep. "Quick, press the button. We can't let him faint." Don't press it. "Oh God, he's going to die." The others panicked and rushed in. They had to unplug the power cord to stop the electricity. At this point, Younger was smoking as if he was about to be cooked. Helen angrily rushed out to confront Hart. Clearly, this was a trap that he deliberately set up. He had calculated in advance that Helen and the others would come in to save Younger. At most, Younger would be electrocuted for a while longer, but wouldn't die. At this point, Helen still didn't understand why Hart did this, nor did she know what role she should play in this situation. After Hart left, Helen immediately told his wife that Hart was a psychopath, not a normal person. Unexpectedly, Hart's wife looked at her with a mocking gaze. Having been married to Hart for so many years, she was well aware of what her husband's job was and understood very well what kind of person Hart was. She herself had been raped by 3 men, and her family was also murdered by them. And those 3 men were her neighbors, the so-called normal people in Helen's words. These words seemed to awaken Helen to some extent. She began to wonder if she had done something wrong. Before she could come up with an answer, Hart called her into the interrogation room. As soon as she stepped in, she almost vomited. Younger's left hand had been cut into several pieces by Hart. With only 1 day left until the bomb was set to explode, Hart had to proceed to the next phase of the plan. Due to the extreme pain, Younger was convulsing all over. Helen had to massage him to calm him down so he could speak normally. This time, Hart immediately used Younger's wife and children as a breakthrough point. After all, Younger didn't want his wife and children to die from the bomb explosion. Hart mocked him, saying that if he no longer had any feelings for his family, then detonating the bomb now, regardless of the purpose, would be meaningless. Seeing Younger gradually breaking down, Hart didn't hesitate to stab him again with a knife. Younger's painful scream left Helen completely bewildered. She began to beg Younger to reveal some information so that Hart would stop. In extreme pain, Younger agreed to confess, but on the condition that he could state his own request first. The guards immediately prepared a camera for him. Younger wanted to send a message to the president. Hart, observing from outside, knew well that Younger was trying to buy time. He was using this time to rest. Younger quickly began recording. He made 2 requests to the president. First, stop all economic and military support to puppet governments or dictatorial regimes in Islamic countries. Second, withdraw all American troops from all Islamic countries. As long as the president announces these 2 things to the world, Younger will reveal the locations of the 3 nuclear bombs. The person in charge bluntly stated that this request doesn't even need to be forwarded to the president to know it cannot be approved. A terrorist demanding to change the foreign policy of an entire nation is truly laughable. However, Hart believed that this request was very reasonable. Withdrawing troops from other countries while preventing a nuclear bomb explosion could save tens of millions of lives. Why not give it a try? Before anyone could discuss, the person in charge declared that there was nothing to negotiate about this matter. At present, not to mention the location of the bomb, it's not even clear whether there is a bomb or not. What if this guy is just pretending? Therefore, the person in charge ordered Hart to continue, at least to force him to admit that there really is a bomb. Hearing this, Helen hurriedly ran into the interrogation room. She was certain that Hart would use even more brutal methods, so she promised Younger that as long as he revealed the location of the bomb, she would let him go and give him back his freedom. Hearing this, Younger almost called her a fool. A country that destroys the freedom of other nations. Talking about freedom here is the biggest joke. Mocked by Younger, Helen was left speechless. She couldn't bear to watch the next scene, so she hurriedly stepped out of the interrogation room. The ridiculous thing is that even at this point, she still couldn't understand the logic of the whole situation. Could Younger's purpose really be just to experience the interaction before revealing the location of the bomb? Currently, the military cannot meet the demands he has made, yet she used freedom as a bargaining chip, still deluding herself that Younger would reveal the bomb's location. Mocked by Younger, she even felt aggrieved, forgetting that Younger had voluntarily surrendered. If he wanted freedom from the start, he could have just escaped and waited for the bomb to go off. Wouldn't that be better? Due to the urgency of time, the general no longer wants to waste time analyzing Younger's psychology. He demands that Helen make progress step by step. Helen then asks Hart to stop. Seeing Younger's miserable state, Helen's compassion is stirred. She says that at the very least, Younger must prove there is a real bomb for the president to consider his demands. Seeing that this woman genuinely wants to help him, Younger is deeply moved. He cries and says that there is no bomb at all. This was just a gamble, but it seems he has lost. Younger cries bitterly, his face full of sincerity. However, this time Helen is more cautious. She asks Younger to provide a nearby address. She needs to verify whether there is really a bomb there or not. Younger obediently gives the address, crying and begging Helen not to let Hart interact with him anymore. When she goes outside, the general confidently asserts that it's all just a hoax. But this time, Helen is unusually alert, showing signs of suspicion. She immediately leads a team to the address provided by Younger. Upon entering, the scene is exactly like the video Younger sent, except there is no bomb here. Yet with some intuition, Helen feels that something is amiss. At this moment, someone reports an incident on the rooftop. Helen and her colleague immediately rush up. But unexpectedly, when they arrive, they fall into Younger's trap. They accidentally trigger the bomb. Experts on the scene confirm that a C4 bomb has exploded at a shopping center in the city area. The explosion claimed the lives of 53 people. Deceived, Helen cried as she rushed in front of Younger, demanding to know why he did it. Younger calmly replied, "Didn't you want to verify if there was a real bomb? I've proven it to you already. Is there anything wrong? Where's the bomb? Where exactly are those bombs? I love my country yet you trample on it. I love my faith yet you insult it. Remember this well for me. I came here because I wanted to. I confess because I am not a coward. I choose to face those who oppress me. You call me a savage. So who are you? 50-something people died and you already want me to cry? Every day you kill even more than that." Faced with Younger's tormenting questions, Helen completely falls into a spiral of contradictions. She criticized Hart for using torture, yet now she herself holds the knife. She wants to save 10 million people but indirectly causes the death of 53 others. She wants to be the guardian angel for Younger, but little did she know he was a demon from the start. Helen gradually collapses, reaching the brink of breakdown. While she is trying to calm herself, a subordinate rushes in to report that they have found a bomb. After inspection, it was confirmed to be a nuclear bomb, containing 4.5 pounds of nuclear material, but there isn't enough time left for them to find the other 2 bombs. If Younger refuses to confess, the consequences will be unimaginable. Under heavy pressure, Helen goes to find Hart, only to find Hart unusually calm. He had seen through Younger, knowing that he would never surrender. Therefore, Hart could only do his best to continue interrogating without killing him. Apart from that, there were no other options. But just as Hart returned to the interrogation room, there was a turning point on Helen's side. Her subordinates had captured Younger's wife. This was the only opportunity at the moment. Helen immediately brought the woman into the interrogation room. Seeing his wife captured in front of him, Younger finally showed some hesitation. Hart used his wife as leverage, forcing him to reveal the location of the bomb. Although Younger was in pain, he considered this a necessary sacrifice. Seeing this, Hart picked up a knife, intending to act against Younger's wife. Unexpectedly, everyone stood up to stop him. "Do all of you want to go against me now? Do you want to know the location of the bomb or not? This is my responsibility. Do you want me to win or him to win?" Hart put the knife down. "Are you choosing to let him win? All of you are too selfish. This is not just anyone's issue. This is war. This is sacrifice." But right after that, Hart swung the knife and killed Young's wife to everyone's shock. Seeing that, Young cried out in agony. Afterwards, Hart just stood washing his face at the sink. The tears streaming down his face showed that he was also under immense pressure. But if one person's life can be exchanged for the peace of 10 million people, Hart firmly believes that it is worth it. His ruthless actions are also a gamble on humanity. Young's goal is to end the war and save more lives. He considers himself a demon, but his purpose is filled with conviction in this situation. The only way to make Young submit is to make him believe that Hart is an even more terrifying demon. This is also the step that Hart least wants to take, because once this final method is implemented, he will fall into a bottomless abyss, unable to escape. As for those standing above, including Helen, they want results but also want Young to be treated humanely. Now time is running out. Helen urges Hart to continue working. Hart does not refuse. He calmly says, bring Young's 2 children here. Bring the children here, and I will give you an answer. Hurry up, bring them here. I won't go anywhere. Just let him see the children, see that they are in my hands. No, unless I die. The children are right outside the door. Don't you understand? If we keep struggling like this, it won't accomplish anything. Therefore, Hart assures everyone that he absolutely will not harm the children. Only use them to threaten Young. Because Hart has already killed his wife, Young now believes that Hart is capable of anything. This is the last chance. So the others brought the 2 children over. Young was pushed outside with a hood over his head. When the hood was removed, his 2 children have been brought into the interrogation room. If his wife could be sacrificed, then his children are Young's ultimate limit. Just as Young began to plead, Hart entered the interrogation room. Seeing Hart about to take action, Young could no longer hold back. He screamed, cursed wildly, and then blurted out the exact locations of the 3 bombs. The soldiers behind quickly took notes and immediately dispatched people to defuse the bombs. Helen hurriedly called Hart in the room. Telling him to stop, the mission was accomplished. But unexpectedly, Hart said that Young was lying. He hadn't revealed the whole truth. Of course, Hart was also lying. From the beginning, he truly intended to take action against the 2 children. Hart was very clear-headed because he knew Young had prepared for everything. As mentioned earlier, this was a battle where Hart both attacked the children and forced Young to reveal the locations of the other bombs. But Young, crying, said that there were no more bombs. At the same time, everyone outside had also reached their limit of endurance. To save the children, they took weapons and broke down the door to rush in. Now, Hart had become the common enemy of everyone. But Hart looked at them with a sarcastic expression. Young just killed 53 people, and I don't need to mention how many of them were women and children. Most importantly, these fools can't tell right from wrong. But they also don't know basic arithmetic. He is innocent now. He doesn't need to reveal the location of the 4th bomb. What do you mean? Are all of you idiots? Every move he makes is meticulously calculated. If he couldn't take it anymore, wouldn't he have already revealed the locations of the 3 bombs? I remember there are 18 pounds of fissile material. Can't you do the math? Each bomb uses 4.5 pounds. Multiplied by 4 makes 18 pounds. Hearing this, the person in charge immediately showed their true colors. He ordered the 2 children to be brought back in. Anyone who dares to stop will be shot. What is humanity? What is a demon? It seems every action has lost its reason, lost its meaning. Helen firmly opposed. She thought everyone here was crazy. Only Hart found this scene ridiculous. Just now they stopped him, and now they ask him to continue dealing with the children. Alright, no problem. But this time Hart demanded that Helen do it herself. If she wants to be an angel, if she has righteousness in her heart, then why shouldn't she be the one to make the decision? Tell me, is doing this righteous? Tell me, is doing this right? If there's one more bomb, you can't do that. We are human. Let the bomb explode. We can't do that. Then, is the thing that destroys everything a nuclear bomb? Isn't it Young, the one who created the nuclear bomb? No, it's not. What truly destroys everything is the deceitful human heart, standing on the moral high ground, never having witnessed the brutality of war, yet loudly praising the value of life. Never having been truly enslaved, yet endlessly talking about the greatness of freedom. When Helen uttered the words, "Let the bomb go off," Hart knew that saying anything more would be an insult to Young. At this moment, the person in charge impatiently drew a gun and forced Hart to act against Young's child. If Hart did not comply, he would harm Hart's child. These words made Hart laugh. Right at the moment of the struggle, Young, who had just been freed, seized the gun from behind. This action made everyone tense. But with events reaching this point, it could be said that Young had completely won. Now he just needed a perfect ending. Everything will be fine. Take care of my child. Hart watched the scene before him with a solemn expression. He understood well that when the one holding the sword loses the ability to wield it, the outcome is already decided. The police quickly found the 3 nuclear bombs and defused them just before the 0 hour. All the officers cheered, thinking they had averted a terrible disaster. They had no idea that their fate had been sealed hours earlier. In that interrogation room, Unthinkable rated the movie as a 5-star must-watch. The movie is just the surface, the commentary is the essence. Today's story ends here. Thank you for watching the movie. What do you think of this movie? Please comment below.